Good afternoon. This time, I will call the Iredell-Statesville Schools Board of Education into regular session. It is our policy to begin our meeting with a moment of silence in which the board members, staff, and guests may privately reflect in their own way on the business of this meeting. Tonight, I ask for special thoughts and prayers for all the people affected by the recent events in New York and Texas. Please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. Before we present the colors in honor of Veterans Day this past weekend, I would like to ask our two veterans on the board, Bill Howell and Chuck Gallion, to step forward, and they will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. At this time, our colors will be presented by the South Iredell High School Marine JROTC program. Please join me and stand in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Before we move into our agenda, I would like to clarify our public comment sign-up procedure to be more aligned with our policy, but allow everyone the opportunity to speak. We will keep the public comment sign-up out front until we're ready to open the floor for public comment. Anyone wishing to speak to the board will need to sign up prior to that time. There will be no additional sign-ups once public comment starts. To be fair to everyone, public comment will be limited to 3 minutes. Thank you. Board members, Mr. Johnson, are there any changes for the agenda?
Mr. Page, under item 4, recognitions, we would like to add letter E recognition of Joe Robertson. He is the assistant principal at Third Creek Elementary.
Item E, under 4, will be the addition of recognizing Joe Robertson. Any other changes to the agenda, board members or Mr. Johnson? The chair would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. I have a motion and a second. Approve the agenda as amended. Any discussion? All in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Carries unanimously. We will move into our consent agenda. Budget amendments. Ms. White.
Good evening. We have for your approval some budget amendments from the state, local, federal, capital outlay, child nutrition, and other special revenue funds. We discussed this last week at the committee of the whole meeting. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to try to answer those.
Any comments or questions, board members? Thank you. Personnel, Dr. Lassane.
Mr. Page, Mr. Johnson, members of the board, you have had the opportunity to review the November personnel report. Are there any questions?
Board members, any comments, questions on the personnel report? Thank you, Dr. Lassane.
Thank you.
We have our minutes for approval, October 2nd, October 9. Board members, you've had some time to look these over. Are there any corrections to the minutes? No corrections or comments about the minutes. At this time, the board would entertain a motion to approve our consent agenda, including minutes.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve consent agenda and with the minutes included. Any discussion? All in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Carries unanimously. Thank you. Recognitions. Mr. Brady Johnson, South Iredell, Junior ROTC.
Thank you, Mr. Page. Members of the board, tonight we'd like to call attention to the South Iredell High School Junior ROTC program. And, of course, this is the program that was before you earlier with the color guard. Is Master Sergeant Fisher still with us? Come to the podium, Sergeant Fisher. We're going to let you tell us a little bit about your program. Yes, bring your students, too, if you'd like. We were recently informed by the military that our Marine Corps ROTC unit there at South Iredell High School has been awarded the very prestigious honor as a Naval Honor School. And among other things, this puts this group of young leaders and their instructor and senior instructor in a very elite group. I have often said that I consider our ROTC programs to be the very best character education development program that we do in the school system. So we wanted to call attention to this fine organization and the outstanding work that they do. And Colonel Rogers could not be with us tonight, but Master Sergeant Fisher is with us. And Sergeant Fisher, if you'd like to introduce your students and say anything else about your program, we'd love to hear that.
Yes, sir. Face about. We have our CO, our XO, and our Sergeant Major. Lily Cisneros is our CO. Step forward, please. Our Sergeant Major. Thank you. All right. Rachel Everett is our XO. Step forward. Thank you. And Burgoyne is our Sergeant Major. We have 2 seniors and a junior. These young men and women in our ROTC program, they commit countless hours to the program itself. Honor School is a privilege. It's based off of approximately 400 other Marine Corps Junior ROTC programs, which is broken down in 4 regions. We are currently in Region 3. over the year, they look at our service hours, how many young men and women, academic scholarships, how many to go into the military service itself, and they just put it all together, and the numbers came out the way they were as far as, the service hours and just the total package of what these young men and women have done over the past year. This is our 8th consecutive honor school nomination, and so I'm proud of these young men and women. Last year, we recently flew out to Texas. The Marine Corps flew us out to Texas for the national drill competition. We are 3-time regional drill champions in our region, so they continue to put up an outstanding performance. Our rifle team recently flew out to Las Vegas last year to compete in the national competition. So these young men and women continue to excel, their leadership and their perseverance and their character, like you said, sir. We want to thank you for your support.
Yes, sir. Congratulations. And Sergeant Fisher, if you'll keep those kids up front, we do want to snap a picture real quick. And Mr. Page, if you'd like to designate a board member to go, we'll include you guys in this as well.
I'm going to designate myself.
There you go.
I'm very proud to stand with you. How about my 2 veterans? Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Our ROTC units are a tremendous asset to the Iredell-Statesville schools, and I don't know what we would do without them. Mr. Armstrong, I believe you've got a few people you'd like to recognize.
Good evening, Mr. Page, Board of Education, Mr. Johnson. It is indeed my honor to recognize several teams here tonight from our high school ranks. First of all, we're very proud of the North Iredell High School volleyball team that won the state 3A championship on Saturday, November 4th, by defeating Chapel Hill High School in 5 sets at Reynolds Coliseum on the campus of North Carolina State University. The team was coached by head coach Natalie Tribble and assistant coach Leah Wells. They finished the season with a 28-2 record. They were the Northwest Piedmont 3A Conference champions, and they were also the North Piedmont 3A Tournament champions. Please join me, and I've had 2 board members that are going to come up and help present the plaque, Mr. Gallion and
Mr. Howe.
Mr. Howe.
No, North were these 2, Max and Mr.
Okay.
Yeah. He'll help with Wes. Yeah. You got the right color shirt, though.
But please join me in honoring Coach Tribble and her state champions. Ladies, please come forward and coach us. Thank you.
Evidently.
Anyway, he's got it.
That's not just a little bit.
Miss Hayes, you need to come up there too, Principal Hayes. Where's the principal? He's hiding out there.
Y'all come inside the gate. Come inside the gate.
Yeah, come on in the gate before you
inside the gate.
fall off the ledge
Go
and
inside.
break an ankle.
Dad won a state championship and break an ankle.
That's the truth.
There you go.
I've been at both games, so I'm telling you. First game was West, second game was North.
I'm going to put you on the spot.
I know, right?
This year's been just an absolutely amazing opportunity just to work with these ladies and to spend every single day with them because we have so much fun together. Even though we're working hard, it's just a lot of fun too. And they always have such determination and such drive, but they have such faith too. And so I think, when you believe in yourself, but then you have teammates who believe in you and you have a coach who believes in you, that's kind of how everything comes together. So I'm just really proud of all the dedication and the commitment that they put in, and I'm very thankful that we met all of our goals one after the other, and I'm just very thankful that we had this storybook ending for this season. So thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
Next, we'd like to recognize the West Iredell High School volleyball team, who were runners-up in the state 2A championship on Saturday, November 4th, also at Reynolds Coliseum on the campus of North Carolina State University. The team was coached by head coach David Parson and assistant coach Brinsley Stewart. They finished the season with a 27-4 record. They also won the Northwestern Foothills 2A conference. At this time, I'd like for everyone to help me in giving applause to Coach Parsons and assistant coach Brinsley Stewart and the West Iredell volleyball state runners-up. Our next recognition will come to the North Iredell High School Raiders men's cross-country team. The NIHS men's cross-country team finished 13th out of 27 teams that competed at the state 3A championship on Saturday, November 4th at Ivy Redmond Park, located in Kernersville, North Carolina. The team was coached by head coach Darla Klein and assistant coaches Rebecca Johnson and Scott McClellan. They were the first team to compete in the state meet. They are the first conference champions since 1978. And I'd like you at this time to help me in giving me applause. I'm sorry, I'm all crossed up tonight. In honoring the North Iredell men's cross-country team, if you would all come up, please. Thank you. Go get this.
Don't start telling us you ran cross country. So. The law.
Yeah.
Y'all said again now how you did the shoot. You did the shot. You did the what? Hey, I'm telling you, that Colorado trip. Got one more, Max.
You're a mess.
And our last recognition will go to a very special young lady by the name of Jonna Strange. I have a few comments that Coach Klein sent me about Jonna. Jonna is a sophomore who transferred from West Iredell when her family built a new home in our district. Her best time last year was 20 minutes, 7 seconds, and her best time this year is 18:28, which she got at state. Her dream is to run at Liberty University, and right now is on track to making that dream come true. At this time, please join me, and in all the runners that were at the state, Jonna placed 8th overall. At this time, let's please honor Jonna Strange. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, look, we got a big crowd tonight.
We're ready to go to E. Mr. Johnson, I believe you have a recognition.
Brady, let me know when you want me to start playing this.
It's not on here. Still, we can
It'll start playing right away.
but I mean,
Mr. Page, board members, we almost let this next recognition slip by. But, we have wonderful students in our school system. We've also got some great employees in our school system. And so tonight, we just want to call your attention to one standout. We're proud of all 2,700 of our employees, but every now and then somebody does something that is so exceptional. We just want to make sure that the board is aware of the caliber of folks that we've got working with our kids every single day. So Joe Robertson, if you'll stand up back there in the back. Joe is the assistant principal at Third Creek Elementary School. And I'm particularly proud of this young man. I had the distinction of serving as his high school principal. And so when you see your kids grow up and become successful, particularly the ones that come back and work in the community, it is a point of pride. Joe is a very intelligent young man. He has an incredible work ethic, the highest level of character, and he is one of the most humble people that I know. As a matter of fact, we almost didn't get him here tonight. I had to threaten him to get him to come tonight and be recognized. A picture's worth 1,000 words, and a video's worth even more. So we got a little clip here we want to show you
to watch. But
about
the ending of it is why it's tonight's good news.
A fifth grader at Third Creek Elementary School in Statesville might just owe his life to his assistant principal. Kristen Hampton talked to them both, and she has tonight's good news.
All right, this is you, Jacob.
When you're in the fifth grade, the assistant principal's office is probably the last place you want to be sitting. But in this case, the reason Jacob Paquette is sitting here alive and healthy might just be because of this man.
I could see his mom grabbing him, and I don't know, I guess I just looked at his face and I could tell, like, something's not right.
The video of the whole incident was captured on the school's surveillance cameras. At an after-school Halloween party, Jacob is there, dressed in blue, standing next to his mother.
I was having a Jolly Rancher stick. I already split it in half, and I was trying to split some more, and it went down my throat. And I stopped talking. I tapped my mom on the shoulder, and she knew that I was choking.
You can see Jacob frantically trying to let his mom know he was in trouble. She started trying to help him, but it wasn't working.
Then I just reacted. I just jumped in there and did it.
You've never done the Heimlich.
No.
Assistant Principal Joe Robertson grabbed Jacob from behind and started performing the Heimlich maneuver. With enough force, it eventually dislodged the candy.
And I was just standing there with Jacob, and we were just kind of taking in the moment like, whoa.
After a pretty scary experience for everybody, the video ends with something kind of adorable. From the guy who just saved his life, a little something to let Jacob know everything was okay.
I just am glad I'm still here.
In Statesville, with the good news, Kristen Hampton, WBTV, on your side.
Wow. We're glad you're still here, Jacob. Absolutely. Mr. Robertson, thumbs up.
Hats off to you.
So, Joe, if you'll come up to the front, please. And Mr. Page, if you'll designate somebody we do have him a plaque we'd like to present.
Chuck's district, I'm going to let. Thank you, Mr. Johnson, for not letting that slide by.
Hey, y'all don't, wait a minute, y'all can't leave yet. Y'all have to stay here for the whole board meeting. Wait a minute, hold on a minute, wait a minute. We don't ever get a packed audience like this, so you have to stay here so we'll have some people here.
They're not paying you one bit of mind, Chuck. They're not even going to wave goodbye to you.
That's the reason I had to park at Mitchell, because there's no parking.
Oh, yeah.
Brenda was an 3-year kid.
They didn't tell me about nothing. She's glad to get away from me.
I understand why. You're messing with her hair.
Yeah. That's going to find bad. She'll make her turn red.
Yeah.
Mr. Page, could I ask you a quick favor?
Sure.
Coach Parsons had a mix-up on the time, and he had told his young ladies 6:30, and some of them weren't here for the picture. Could they come back up one more time?
Sure,
for a
bring them
picture?
all right back up
Okay,
there.
all the
Absolutely.
West. Hi.
Come back up here, guys. He was with West.
You're welcome. You're welcome, Dave.
Absolutely.
Come on, Haven, stand close so I can mess your hair up again.
Yeah. Chuck, please embarrass your granddaughter for us. Mr. Gang, would you like to bring her up here so you can embarrass her completely?
Yeah. Can you imagine that? We'll put that in public.
All right, come on, get up there, girls.
I'm looking group of kids. Kind of unusual thing.
Coach, great job.
Good job, mate. Well, they didn't come up front, but we had the principal and the athletic director, both of them with Iredell.
Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Palmer was here, and Mr. Jordan, the athletic director, and the coach. Well, everybody did leave. That's not right.
That ends our recognition section of our agenda. We now move into our non-consent agenda. Our first item is whole school, whole community, whole child. Ms. Amanda Peters.
Good evening, Mr. Page,
Good
Mr.
afternoon.
Johnson, board. I do have a little bit of an update from last week. You had asked a couple of questions about the WISC pilot that we had talked about, so I did want to include those, and that's on the first page. You had asked about some of the funding questions, and so I talked to Ms. Kelly Marcy about that and who would take over the SHAC committee should my position not be funded. So the update is included there, and then about the data consultant part that I do and who would take that part over. So that additional information is included on that first page. And then you had asked Mr. Johnson about his ability to attend all of the SHAC meetings. So the answer to that question as far as changing the MOA to reflect the language that we could be a little more flexible, that was fine with DPI as well. So with that, are there any additional questions about the WISC pilot? And once again, we're just moving from the little less formal to a more formal agreement between the health department, the schools, and the Healthy Schools DPI section.
Board members, any questions or comments for Ms. Peters? If not, okay.
What did you decide to do about the poster?
The poster is separate from the whole school. We'll bring that to you once we have a new kind of version to look at, once we've worked on that.
That's not a part of this tonight.
So we're just voting on this proposal.
It's not in here. It's not in there, yeah. Right.
Very good. The chair would entertain a motion to approve.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the whole school, whole community, whole child proposal. Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the whole school, whole community, whole child proposal. Any further discussion?
Thank you, Ms. Peters, for getting all this together. Appreciate it.
Take a vote at this time. All in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Thank you, Ms. Peters.
Thank you.
Next, CTE Advisory Committee, Mr. Todd Williams.
Good evening, Mr. Johnson, board members. Last week I presented to you the particulars of Senate Bill 257 and Statute 115C-170. So tonight I ask you for a vote to establish an advisory board, CTE Advisory Board Council, by approving the prospective list of council members. You may recall that I had a prospective list last week, and we had some additions to that going to 16. I made a copy of that. And then also, secondly, I want to vote to approve the policy that will allow for future appointments to be determined by the chair of the committee and then also the CTE director.
You have that policy written up.
Yes, did that? It was in the. If you look on the bottom of page 4 and the top of page 5, it should be highlighted in yellow. And Mr. Long here helped me with the verbiage on that, and he.
I direct the members to Article 3, Section 1, Subsection 2 for the proposed policy portion.
This meets all the requirement of the legislation. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Todd, did you put like 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year terms? Is that what the highlight?
I did. I grouped them.
Okay.
And of course, when we meet the first time, if some of them can't serve for the 4 years, I did group them.
Okay.
So Group 1 will serve the 1 year, Group 2, 2 years, and so on and so forth until we get, and then after we get past the initial first 3 years, everybody will serve 4 years after that.
You've talked to each one of them because there's one on here that's not checked.
I have. That's Jennifer Minton from Carolina Farm Credit, and she actually called me on the way over here and said she would serve.
10-4. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? If not, the chair would entertain a motion to approve the CT Advisory Committee request.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
All discussion, I think, is extremely important. I think these partners are going to be the direction in our choice programs for the school systems. So I applaud the choices you have in there. I think we got some really good companies. I just hope we look at any future growth we can add to that or figure out a way to include them in the feedback. Super good job.
Thank you.
No further discussion or questions. At this time, we'll take a vote. All in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Carries unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Williams.
Thank you.
We have a couple of second readings of policy, which will require a vote tonight. Mr. Armstrong.
Mr. Page, members of the board, Mr. Johnson, I have two policies for second reading. Policy 3640/5130, student voter registration and pre-registration. There have not been any questions, or we've made the necessary changes, and there haven't been any concerns. We'll just ask for a vote at this time.
Any comments, questions from Mr. Armstrong, board members? If not, the chair would entertain a motion to approve both policies, 3640 and 5008.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we adopt these as written. Second.
Have a motion to adopt them as written and second. And any other discussion? All in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Thank you, Mr. Armstrong. They carry unanimously.
Right. And the second policy is policy 5.
Oh, I'm sorry. I went on and voted on both of them.
All right.
They already voted it, whether you want it or not.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
Hey, the Panthers are playing tonight. I'm moving this thing right along here now. Yeah. 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 We're moving right along. Yeah. All right. Dr. Taylor, you got school improvement plans.
I do. I have school improvement plans. Each year, schools develop their school improvement plans to focus on basically their gap areas and to identify specific strategies that they will be taking. You have had access to these plans since October, and they do require board approval. I'll be glad to answer any questions that you may have.
I'm just amazed at how much work our principals have to do on other stuff other than principal in the school.
I was amazed at how good the plans work. They're a lot more detailed. They're addressing a lot of the core schools and the things of that. I didn't get to read but about 5 or 6 of them. But
They have done a very, very good job. They do take it very seriously. It is very much the work that the school is doing.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we adopt the school improvement plans as presented.
I have a motion second to approve the school improvement plans as presented. Any other discussion? All in favor, aye. Aye, opposed, no. All right, Mr. Rob Jackson, naming the new middle schools.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Page, members of the board, Mr. Johnson. During the October meeting, you had asked us to get community involvement and community input on the naming of the new schools. I have attached 2 links that would give you that information, also a copy of the total report that was a part of this attachment here. The staff's recommendation, based on our feedback, is the 2 new middle schools will be named Third Creek Middle on the campus at Third Creek Elementary and Woodland Heights Middle at the campus of Woodland Heights Elementary. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
I was just speaking to Ms. Bonham a while ago. These 2 schools were in our district, and I looked at some names at our last CAL meeting, and there were some really good names, but most logistically wise in what we've been doing, Lakeshore, whatever, Woodland Heights, Third Creek, it seems to go with them. But there were some really innovative names. So Dr. Taylor and the rest of staff that y'all pulled this together, there was a lot of thinking going on at both schools, so a lot of initiatives. So.
Mr. Chairman, motion to take staff recommendation.
Second.
I have a motion and second to take staff recommendation and name both our middle schools as Third Creek Middle and Woodland Heights Middle. Any other discussion? All in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Carries unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Jackson.
Sir.
Mr. Jackson, Facilities Use Agreement. Now, look, this is our last vote. We're on a roll here.
Yes, sir.
We're all getting along and got everything.
Several months ago, you asked me to look into some of the fees that we charge for our travel teams, and this is based on the usage fee that we charge. When we first let travel teams come into our system, we charged them $100 per team per season. After we looked at it for a year or 2, we upped that fee to $250 per team per season. But as we started calculating the number of hours that each of these teams were using, it became apparent we needed to increase that fee and put a few more stipulations for the use of the travel teams to use our facilities, because they do take a lot of wear and tear. So the recommendations are to charge an hourly fee for all facilities. We're suggesting $10 per hour, and a minimum of 2-hour allotment. The fees can be paid on a monthly basis for the hours used each month. Allow principals to set times for closing based on their school's needs and the staff that are on site to be able to ensure the schools are locked up and secure each and every night. Travel teams would also submit with their schedule list of responsible contacts who are overseeing the daily practices. Coaches and player rosters should be included with that. Any contributions made to the school should be made with the principal's discretion. Contributions should be over and above the hourly fees paid for the usage at the schools. I know they do contribute a lot, but they contribute only to their sport. And we'd like to see them contribute to the school-wide and let the principal make that decision as to how those funds or how the best use of that donation is made. And if any problems, we have on-site supervision may be required if they don't meet the time requirements, and that would be a $25 an hour per fee charged for the staff member to be on-site. I'll be glad to answer any questions you have.
Is it appropriate to ask whether these travel teams are based in Iredell County or whether there are other counties that are coming in using our facilities?
Most of the teams are based out of Iredell County. Their rosters may include players from outside the county. We typically do not allow just any team to come on in campus, but they are local teams, local people, but they may bring a few players from out of the county.
Are they aware, or a lot of these clubs, are they aware that we're changing this policy? Have you bounced it to them?
Some of them are aware because they've already started asking for new renewals for this upcoming volleyball and basketball seasons.
Did they have a heart attack when they saw it? No, they were okay with it?
Because it's the best gig that they can get anywhere to have a place to practice.
Okay.
I'm really surprised that $10 an hour covers our facility costs on gyms and fields with lights. But we'll leave if that's y'all's recommendation. Any other discussion or questions?
I'll make a motion we accept Mr. Jackson's proposal to the board.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second to approve the facilities use agreement for travel teams. Any further discussion? All in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, no.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. At this time, we will move into our public comment section. Dr. Miller brings aboard. We have one speaker today. Ms. Thomas will address us considering SROs at Woodland Heights Elementary. Yes, ma'am. If you'll have there, and you will have 3 minutes. Please give us your name and what you'll be discussing, and then you'll have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, my name is Juliette Thomas, and I'm a very proud parent of a kindergartner and a first grader that I have been wrestling for the past 40 minutes in the back. And I want to thank you for the opportunity to be here today to discuss something that, you know, as a mother, I feel a sense of responsibility towards my children and making sure that they are in the best environment to learn, to grow, and to also be safe. I want to say that, first of all, I'm very happy at Woodland Heights Elementary. I think it's a wonderful school. We've had 2 years there where I very much like the teachers, and we have a new principal so far that I'm honestly impressed with. However, there is one concern that I have as a parent, and that is that I've noticed last year when my first child was in kindergarten that there was no student resource officer on campus. Immediately when I drove up, I realized what to me should be obvious was a missing piece in their day. I personally am a very big advocate for having a student resource officer on campus for a variety of reasons. The very first reason is to protect my children. Again, as a parent, my number one priority is their safety. So I also know that you probably have children in the school systems as well, or grandchildren, or friends, family, being in Iredell County. But I'd ask you to very strongly consider, especially in today's times where every day we wake up and we see something new, something that is unimaginable to happen in our society. And we hope that it doesn't happen in our environment. But, I personally live by the motto to fail to plan is to plan to fail. So I'm asking for your serious consideration and moving forward and allocating money towards putting an SRO on campus. So I have just a little bit of time left. I do feel that an SRO can help negate some criminal activity on campus by being like a CPI security sign in front of the school to, ward off those any type of violence, including domestic violence or the violence that I've already made reference to in the earlier part of my conversation. In addition to the safety concerns, there are other benefits that a student resource officer can give children, and that is a sense of community. And it's also a sense of confidence and self-esteem, helping them to establish relationships with their officers so that they can have a better community and they can have an understanding of how law enforcement helps them and not hinders them in their day-to-day activity. I had a student resource officer on campus, and it's something that I dearly remember. And I think that would be a great program for my children. I have been doing a lot of research. I'm not able to fit it in 3 minutes. However, I do want to say this is something that is concerning to me. I realize that we have 17 elementary schools around the area. I understand that the dollar amount is $2 million. I also understand that there's 4 different avenues that you can allocate money, one being through the Sheriff's Department. I encourage you very strongly to consider that source and seek grants for the Sheriff's Department. And again, I want to thank you for your time and listening to my request.
Thank you. This time we'll move into board member comments. I'll open the floor for our board members.
I would like to just make a comment to our 2 members on our board that are military veterans. I had the opportunity to be in the Veterans Parade in Mooresville Saturday. For the first time I'd ever been down there, and I had the good graces of being the assistant executive director for Miss Statesville, and so I had our queen there, and she was there to share in their successes for these veterans. And one of the things that caught my attention as we rode around, the queen that was with me, Alyssa, her thing to these veterans was thank you for your service and thank you for helping our country. And I saw at least a dozen men with tears in their eyes whenever these floats and these girls and these people went by, because they finally, I felt like, got some recognition for what they've been doing. And they asked me at the end, they said, will you be back next year? And I said, oh yeah, I'll be back. I hadn't thought about it because, you know, I'm not a veteran, but to me it is important that these guys that did serve understand what was there. So I want to publicly thank our 2 board members that have made that sacrifice and thank them for their service. And if you have an opportunity to attend any of these veterans events, please do that. I think it will change your opinion of what's there. That's all I had to say.
Thank you, Max.
And I know the parade in Troutman on 4th of July, which Mr. Gaines in charge of, is also very, very emotional for some of the vets. It's we owe them so much. We owe them the freedom of. We owe them everything we got, to be honest with you, and all the ones that come before them, and all that's looked after our country since our country was born. So I also want to thank you.
These young men and women, like I said, Thursday of last week, when I invited y'all to come out, and Colonel Van Fleet, Sergeant Hooker, who's a graduate of West Ireland and military and came back, and then all of them, especially the Marine Corps League, all the ROTC, they do such a great job in our county. These young men and women are just doing so much, and our strength in our country right now is like 52%, and it's Guard and Reserve. It's pulling up most of the strength. Our full military has been pulled back, but I enjoyed my time, and the real heroes are people like Dale Wilson, who I lost basically nothing except time and away from home, but Dale Wilson lost 2 legs and 1 arm, and Dale Beatty lost 2 legs. And if you hear Dale Wilson, just quickly, he spoke one year, and he said, does any of y'all want to move to Island Ford Road? I'd suggest you don't move to Island Ford Road, and I'd suggest if you do move to Island Ford Road, you don't name your son Dale, because Dale Wilson lived on one end of Island Ford Road, and Dale Beatty lived on the other, and they'd both gone in service and lost their legs. So, and he kids about this, but there was a time when he was so bitter. He's a Silver Star recipient, probably one of the highest decorated men in this county, and he burned his medals on the outhouse wall. So it's been a lot of pain and agony, and all those things on TV and going to it. So. And this gentleman, Ralph Carr, 100 years old, was at West Iredell last week, and they had him in a wheelchair, but he was a veteran, and he was 100 years old. So they do a great job, and I'm just one of them. They're the heroes. I'm just glad I benefited of the time I had.
Mr. Galley and I came back at a time when this country didn't care for their veterans. And I remember I was going home on leave, and I'd just gotten married, and we were in Atlanta airport, and I was looking around to be sure I wasn't getting spat on. And my wife remembers that. She was really frightened because there was a lot of ugly people saying a lot of things. So my generation really appreciates what's happening now in our country to our veterans.
Board members, any other comments?
We won't meet again, but I want to invite everybody to the Troutman Christmas Parade, which will be held Saturday, December the 2nd at 11 o'clock in Troutman. And thanks to Mr. Jackson, Dr. Miller, and Tina, and our nutrition, and Mr. Rogers, and board members, Mr. Chairman and board members, and Mr. Johnson, if you don't care, we're going to use our parking lot to start it again at Katz and come around Rimmer Road and down Old Mountain Road. So we're not using any facilities, but I've already cleared it with the staff to have that parking lot cleared on Friday. And unless the board has a problem with that, the town of Troutman wanted to go back, and they wanted the parade in Troutman to be a hometown parade, so they wanted to come down Eastway instead of down Main Street. So unless the board has any problem, or Mr. Johnson administration and the staff I've talked to said it was okay, so just wanted to clear that with y'all. And come and be in the parade. 11 o'clock on Saturday, December 2nd. West Iredell Band will be there and part of South Iredell, but they have something going on with North that day. They're going up to Gatlinburg, part of South Band and North Band. So, but I hope we'll have a good parade.
There was a lot of school stuff in it last year, I can tell you that.
Thanks to Cats. They put a lot in it.
All right, any other member comments?
I just wanted to make one quick comment about the School Board Association meeting we were at today. Leanne Winter, who was our liaison with the General Assembly, said that the NCSBA is going to put forth a resolution, and we school boards are welcome to join in if we like, and we can amend the resolution as we like. But the three things that she stated, she said, regarding classroom sizes, even if the General Assembly does decide to fully fund all these teachers and the enhancements, she said that this resolution is asking the General Assembly to put the brakes on this, to take it slower, based on three facts. One was the teacher pool, because all these counties now are going to be needing extra teachers. The other thing was facilities, and how are we going to manage that? And then the other thing was, how is this going to affect pre-K, which is a major push for DPI right now. They're trying to really get the pre-K program organized and get it back up and running like it's supposed to be. She said that a lot of those pre-K programs may have to be fully eliminated if this K through 3 class size goes forward. So she said she'd be getting I guess an email that will be coming out to us. She wants to get this to the General Assembly by December the 1st, the first week after Thanksgiving. That's when the General Assembly goes back into session, and that way it doesn't get lost in the shuffle. But she said she would also welcome our delegation to also put forth its resolution, and we can amend it, like I said, because I don't know about our pre-K here. We might not have as big of issues with that, so we can, take that out or, address those issues as needed. But anyway, we'll be seeing that probably in the next week or so.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson, do we have a date for our legislative get-together?
Yes, sir. We'd like to propose December 7th, if that suits y'all's schedule.
Pearl Harbor Day. What day of the week is that, Mr. Johnson, by any chance?
I'm not sure. Anybody know the day?
Looking at it right now, Thursday.
December 7th, on Thursday.
Yep.
You got location, Unity Center again?
The Unity Center was what we were proposing, and probably start that about 8 o'clock and do a light breakfast again like we did last year.
Have you checked that date with the legislators as far as?
No, sir, we have not. We were going to get you to approve it first before we reach out to them.
Just, make sure they're not having to be that down.
Committees.
Yeah, I don't know if they got any committee meetings or not. Sounds fine with me. Rest of the board?
Sounds great.
All right.
Sounds good.
Look forward to that.
What's the date of the Auto Tech dinner?
Auto Tech lunch will be on the 14th.
Okay.
Board members, you'll get an invitation, but I'll go ahead and warn you.
How is that?
That runs from 11 to 1 on the 14th. Yeah, well, because they needed, yeah. It's just when we get out. It worked better on, they try to do it on the Thursday before we get out. So the Tuesday is the last day. So that didn't work. You never want to have it on the last day.
On the 14th of December.
Yes, sir, 14th. Correct. All right, if we got no other board member comments, Mr. Johnson, superintendent comments.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Page, board members. I've got a couple of slides I'd like to share with you. And to start off, I want to thank you for approving our project that is known as Whole School, Whole Community, Whole Child. I'm kind of a visual learner, and sometimes it kind of helps me to see things put in perspective with graphic organizers. 2 weeks ago, we were asked to attend the state Board of Education meeting down in Raleigh. ISS is one of 3 districts in North Carolina that volunteered to pilot this project. And so we were asked to go down and give a little progress report and share with the State Board of Education some of the things that are going on in our community. And I think one of the things that we're all hoping will come out of this, and you know this very well in looking at the survey results that was in your packet, we do have a lot of our children in the community that are struggling. And we have a lot of kids that live in poverty. We have a lot of children that are unfortunately caught up in homelessness. We have kids that are making bad decisions. And so the whole idea behind this is to look at your community as a whole and to bring together all of the various agencies in the community and align the efforts and pull together in the same direction. I think what we're doing now is we've got lots of random acts of help and support out there, and a lot of really good intentioned folks that are trying to help us. But what we're hoping to do with this work is to go from that model to a model more like this. And I took just a moment one day there at my desk to brainstorm some of the community partners that we do have. And this is the tip of the iceberg. If we were to list them all, I bet you we've got over 100 community partners that are working on our behalf with our children. But what we're going to try to do with this work is to align those arrows and to make our needs known to all of our community partners and to make sure that the efforts that those community partners are putting forth make it down to the child level, and that every school in the district is impacted by this. So we're very, very excited about this. I'd like to compliment Ms. Peters and the great work that she's done thus far on this project. And in the months ahead, look for good things to come out of this work that's going to impact all 21,000 of our children. That is some of my new best friends that I met Saturday night. This is the Crosby Scholars folks held a fundraising event for us. And Crosby Scholars is one of those community-based partners that serves our children. And they did a fundraiser for us Saturday night down at Trump National. And I hadn't heard the results of how much they've raised, but I'll tell you one thing, these folks right here are really good at what they do. And what they're good at is taking your money. It didn't take me long to lose my $300 Crosby bucks. But some really great people came in to help with this. Those folks, most of them are retired dealers from Las Vegas that have moved back to the Charlotte community. And so lots of volunteers. The venue was just absolutely beautiful. And I do want to give a shout out to Vicki Sawyer and Beth Packman. Ms. Packman is with us again tonight. But Crosby Scholars does some really great work in our middle schools and our high schools. We sure hope this event continues on and gets bigger and better as the years go by. Last Wednesday, right here in this courtroom, we were honored to have the North Carolina Court of Appeals in Statesville. And so Jim Mixon, our clerk of court, arranged for that tour to come through the Statesville community. The gentleman that you see in the top photograph on the far left is Judge Hedrick's son, and Judge Hedrick served as the Chief Justice of the Court of Appeals many years ago. He's deceased now, but his son was there and told a very inspiring story about Judge Hedrick, who was a native of Iredell County, grew up here, and unfortunately, when he was 14 years of age, involved in an accident that left him totally blind. And he went on to finish high school and attended the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, went to law school, and came back to the community and worked his way up through the ranks of solicitor and district court judge, and wound up as the Chief Justice of the Court of Appeals. And we had kids from West Iredell, Statesville High School, CCTL, and Crossroads in attendance. And I think the kids learned a lot that day. They got to see a criminal case and a civil case. So we sure do want to thank Mr. Mixon for bringing this to our community and inviting the school groups in. One of the big projects that we're working on now on behalf of our county commissioners and our economic development folks and the friends we have at the Chamber of Commerce in Statesville and Mooresville is developing a blueprint to create a pipeline of workers for our community. What our business community is telling us is that we have hundreds of jobs available in our community today, but nobody to interview. And so there is a problem with the pipeline. And we have held 2 meetings now down at the Career Academy. This is Mooresville Graded School System, Mitchell Community College, and ISS. And I really want to commend Todd Williams, who's leading this effort on our behalf. They're doing a great job of, again, aligning all of the arrows. There's lots and lots of good work going on out there, but it is a little convoluted right now, and we're not all pulling in the same direction. So we look forward to bringing you this blueprint in the early part of 2018 and sharing this with you. I think it's going to be very bold and innovative, and it's going to have it's going to make a difference for not only the businesses in our community, but it's going to put some of our kids out there upon graduation and make them available in the workforce here in our community. So we're very excited about this work. You know, a couple of years ago, we had a young man who approached the board with the idea of appointing a student representative to the Board of Education, and we wasn't able to make that happen. But as a rebound on that, I did begin a group that I call the Superintendent's Advisory Council. So we have 2 students from each of our high schools and early colleges, and we meet with them several times a year. And boy, do I have a crackerjack group this year. As a matter of fact, they are very anxious to come speak to you. They've got some ideas that they want to share with you, and so I'm going to coach them up on that process. One of the things that they're working on right now is a position statement on our technology refresh, and several of the kids also serve on that committee as well. But forewarning, you're going to be hearing from this group of students before long. They are very energized, and they are not shy about sharing their opinions. It's a great group of kids, you know, and it pays you sometimes to sit down and talk with your students because they do have some great ideas. Here's a couple shots of marketing that is taking place across our district. We've held several community meetings where we've invited folks from the community to come in and hear directly from our teachers and our students about the great things that are going on in our school system. Now, the concept of marketing is rather misplaced in public education. For a long time, we operated under the premise that we had a monopoly. But we do not have a monopoly any longer. And so terms like market share and marketing your school and promoting yourself are relatively new to public education. But our folks have embraced this, and we have many other events planned as the school year unfolds. It won't be long until our registration guides are going to be coming out. It'll be time to meet with parents and students and talk about signing up for courses next year. That's part of marketing as well. But we're also reaching out to folks that don't consider us to be the provider that they're interested in. So we're having conversations with homeschool parents, parents that are attending charter schools and private schools. And I am extremely proud of the job that the staff is doing in embracing this concept of making sure that our community knows about the great things going on in our public schools, and that we do have 36 outstanding options for the residents of Iredell County. I was invited to a fundraiser down at Lakeshore Middle School recently. Vicki Sawyer was running that as well. She's on the PTO there. And this organization had a goal to raise $20,000 in an event that they call One and Done. It was a one day. It was held on an early release, and by golly, they met their goal too. It is one of the most active, energized group of parents I've ever seen. But I certainly appreciate the invitation, and we've got great parents that are out there working on behalf of our schools, and we certainly are proud of them. I've already heard reference tonight to the Veterans Day celebration that took place last week at West Iredell High School. You know, a lot of our schools have celebrations and recognitions for veterans, nowhere near as elaborate and to the scale that West Iredell High School does. This was their 9th consecutive year that the ROTC students there at West have promoted this program. I would say conservatively that we had 150, 175 veterans plus their family members that came with them. And it was just an absolutely beautiful program. The entire school gets involved in this. The chorus sings patriotic songs, the band plays, and so it was just a delightful morning. And they also provide these guys with a really great lunch. And you would be surprised at how appreciative these veterans are for that simple act of recognition and thanks. The gentleman that you see in the red shirt in that left photograph, he brought by some of his models. He has tanks, planes, armored personnel carriers, every piece of imaginable equipment. He has over 650 models that he has constructed over the years, and they're all mounted. He has many stories to tell about the equipment and how it was used and battles that it was used in. And to my surprise, he stopped me that day and said that he would like to donate his 650 models to the school system. And he asked me if I thought we could find a place to permanently house those. And so I went out on faith and said, absolutely. We will find you a spot to do that. So we look forward to bringing
Well, I'm pushing for military high schools, so when we get our military high school, we'll have a place to put them.
Absolutely.
Colonel Rogers at South's looking for a jet or a tank to put out for their new facility he's got.
I think he's found a helicopter.
Did he find a helicopter? Okay.
He found a helicopter.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. Decommissioned. All right.
Ready for me to move? Okay.
Yeah. All right. Last Wednesday we had our principals meeting, and the state superintendent was not here, but he did send some congratulations to our schools. And so that group of principals that you see there were celebrating the fact that last school year, their student data, they exceeded growth, which is, pretty tough to do. But the schools that you see represented there include, at the elementary level, Cool Springs, Harmony, Third Creek, Troutman, and Woodland Heights. Our middle schools that exceeded growth and were recognized included Lakeshore Middle, Northview IB. And we had 3 high schools, CCTL, Lake Norman High School, and Crossroads Arts and Science Early College. These are our schools that met their growth targets last year, a little larger group there. The elementary schools include Celeste, Central, Cloverleaf, Lake Norman, Lake Shore, NB Mills, Scotts, and Sharon. Our middle schools that met growth last year included Brawley Middle, East Iredell Middle, Mount Morn IB, North Iredell Middle School, Troutman Middle, West Iredell Middle, and West Iredell High School was recognized for meeting growth as well. We had 2 of our schools that were recognized by the state superintendent for having a 100% graduation rate. And they included the Collaborative College, CCTL, there at Mitchell, on the Mitchell campus, and Crossroads, which is located on the Statesville High School. So congratulations to those 2 early colleges as well. We recently received notice that the Iredell County Community Foundation Endowment had awarded 2 major grants to the school system, and we want to call your attention to this. The dual immersion program at East Iredell, that should say elementary school, was awarded $20,000 to purchase materials and library books. And NB Mills Elementary was awarded $12,000 for a program that they're calling Today a Reader, Tomorrow a Leader. So congratulations to both of those schools. And thanks to Susie Weiberg, who helps us write these grants too. And there is the legislative breakfast that we held last year on December 7th, 2017. Oh, wait a minute, that slide's wrong. That's the proposed date for this year, but that was last year's event that was held in December. So you have approved that date now of December 7th, 2017, and we'll get that word out. Very well attended last year. As you can see there, we had county commissioners, school board members, members of the North Carolina House of Representatives. Don't think we had our senators made it last year, but we'll certainly get those invitations out very quickly. And the next slide will show you what we chose to focus on in 2017. We had 5 legislative priorities last year. Principal pay. Our principal pay in North Carolina had fallen to 49th in the nation. And so the General Assembly addressed that. Not everybody's happy with the new formula that is used to pay principals, but principals certainly did get a pay raise, along with lots of other state employees as well. So I do think that holding these legislative breakfasts and communicating directly with our lawmakers is beneficial, and it certainly paid off in that arena. We also asked them to make sure that they focused on increasing funding for K-12 education, and they did that. We also asked for calendar flexibility, and unfortunately we did not get that initiative done, but our county commissioners supported us with that, and they passed a resolution that says this makes sense. And so we're very proud of the support that we got from the county on that. We also asked the General Assembly to take a look at the A through F report card, specifically the formula that is used in designing that report card. It currently is a 20-80 match. 20% of that grade comes from the growth that we just recognized our principals for, and 80% of it is that one test, one day. And what we would like to see is to see that formula tweaked to at least a 50-50, or maybe even reverse those numbers. But we'll continue to talk about that. The other thing that we put on the legislative agenda last year was our class size legislation, and that was partially successful. We did get a year reprieve and a little breathing room with the implementation of that law. So as we prepare for the 2018 legislative breakfast and communicating with our lawmakers as they go back down to Raleigh in mid-January, here are some of the things that the staff identified as some of our big rocks for the new school year. Ms. Bonham has already referenced one. But we would like to continue to talk about the calendar flexibility. If North Carolina is going to expect us to work closer with our community colleges and encourage kids to take college courses while they're still in high school, then we need that flexibility. The A through F report card, we will never give up on that. We feel like that assigning a one-letter grade to a school does not recognize all of the efforts taking place in those schools. And so we want that formula to be looked at again. Class size legislation, the impact on our community, the funding issue, the hiring issues that Ms. Bonham mentioned just a minute ago. We've got to make sure that our elected officials are mindful of the true impact that this legislation is going to have on local communities. And in addition to funding it, as Anna pointed out just a few minutes ago, we're not sure that there will be enough teachers to even hire to meet the requirements of this legislation. Early college funding, last year early college funding was cut 7%. This year it's scheduled to be cut 15%. And so here you've got 2 of our 3 early colleges being recognized for 100% graduation rates, doing remarkable things for kids, and we're scratching our heads. Why would you cut funding for one of your most successful programs? The other topic, and this was brought up by my students on the Superintendent's Advisory Council, we are scheduled to enact legislation this year when our kids take the ACT, and the career and college rigor is going to kick in with the ACT test this year. You know, in North Carolina, every child has to take the ACT, no exceptions. That is a college admissions test, and so we got lots of our kids that are saying, I'm going to go to a community college. Why do I have to take the ACT? Some are not quite as motivated in taking the test as they should be. But on September 27th, when they take that test this year, if you don't make the score set by the state of North Carolina, then all of those students are required the next year to take remediation. So that is a whole new ball of wax right there. Does that mean that the high school kids, the seniors, are going to have to redo their schedules? What does that remediation look like? Are we going to have to hire additional teachers to do the remediation? So this is something that we need to have our high school principals come in, some of our students as well, and talk to our members of the General Assembly, because I'm not sure that they're fully aware of all the impact of setting that high bar for the ACT. Now, we have lots of space there to add other bullets to our agenda for the 2018 legislative breakfast. But give that some thought, board members, and anything that you would like to see us add, we'll be happy to. But those are the 5 or 6 big rocks that we feel like we need to communicate with our members of the General Assembly about. So we'll get this breakfast scheduled, and we look forward to meeting and sharing good news with them, and also sharing some of our concerns about pending legislation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. You said I stole your thunder last week. You stole mine this week. So I wanted to thank Ms. Packman for a great time Saturday night. And no, I did not win the $1,000. It was Rick Marson won it, not me. So I was just holding his ticket. So I want to make sure everybody knows that. So don't keep asking me to borrow money. I don't have any. Thank you very much, Mr. Johnson. Any other comments? I believe we need a closed session tonight. The chair would entertain a motion to go in closed session for personnel matters.
Mr. Chairman, according to the North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11, I make a motion that the board enter into closed session after a 5-minute break to discuss personnel
Yes, sir.
issues and to preserve the attorney-client privilege.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second. Look, folks, we got to have it whether you want it or not. Any discussion? All in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Let's take a 5-minute break and we'll go into closed session. It's still going to happen. To go in open session. Do I hear a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to go in open session. Any discussion? All in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, no.
A second.
I have a motion and a second to adjourn. Any comments?
I was going to ask Kenny what he did for summer camp, but okay.
All in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, no. We're adjourned.
Congratulations to our mayor.